It's showtime.
Well, welcome back to the next episode of the Coastal Wave podcast. I'm here with the very famous, always energetic brother of mine, Nigel Haranzi.
And I'm here with Pat Zarcone, coming live to you on the second floor of the Berkshire Way Hathaway building, Myrtle Beach Real Estate, here in sunny Myrtle Beach. And I just messed that one up, didn't I?
It's all good, though.
Yep.
Why would you be able to pronounce your own company name?
I mean, you know, everybody has a slip here and there, right?
It's all good. It's all good. We've got some really cool guests with us today. We've got Mr. Nick Camera and his daughter Stephanie here with us.
That's me.
And we are here to just have a little bit of discussion about the veterans and how South Carolina and Myrtle Beach, what it's like to live here. And maybe just have a little, get to know you a little bit better, Nick. We really appreciate your service for our country, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's not just words. I can't imagine, you know, basically giving yourself up for a period of time to defend people that you don't know, really, in a country that you love, obviously. Right,
and it's folks like this that made it possible for us to be in this room today having a podcast, right?
That's right.
And we have a very special day coming up on the 11th. And Nick, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I like the way you said the Berkshire Way.
That's right. It's the Berkshire Way.
That could be a new motto for yourself.
Berkshire Way.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, Friday is Veterans Day.
Yes, sir.
A special day for all who served and for those that are now serving.
Yes.
Who will be veterans.
Absolutely.
And I happen to have 21 years service. I went in right after college into the Army as a second lieutenant, and I served from 1971 to 1992.
Wow.
Oh, man.
So my younger years were spent on active duty, and I traveled all over the world, took my family with me on a number of places. Stephanie here went to Italy from the Washington, D.C. area.
Really?
You had time in Italy?
Oh, I have 2.5 years in Italy.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Do you know how to speak Italian?
I think I can ask how much is something. Quanta costa?
Quanta costa. Come ti chiami?
That's all I know. What he said. Yeah.
And for those years, we instead of calling her Stephanie, she was Stefania.
Stefania.
Yeah.
I like that actually. I would stick with that. We got Stefania in the room.
Stephanie Ann when he's mad.
That's amazing.
So anyway, looking back, it was a wonderful career. It was a wonderful time of my life. Raised my children, a military family. We moved a lot. Stephanie's my third of my three children.
Oh, wow.
And the boy, he went from Germany to Texas to Florida, from Florida to...
Kansas?
To Syracuse, New York.
Oh, that was a sacrifice.
Now these are all the places that you were?
Oh, yeah.
I'm from Rochester.
I was in Korea for a year, 1986 to 87.
Really?
And my family, we moved together from Texas up to Virginia because my next duty assignment was back at the Pentagon when I returned from Korea. And before that, in 79, I went to Saudi Arabia for a year.
Wow.
As an advisor to the kingdom.
Oh, man.
And my family was down in Florida at Homestead Air Force Base, which, by the way, got wiped out by Hurricane Andrew back.
Really?
Yeah.
And they never rebuilt it?
It's never been rebuilt.
Okay.
My one daughter was born there. Her older sister, Nicole, was born there. And we tried to retrace our steps and find the hospital totally overgrown by the jungle.
Really? Yeah. Just letting it overgrow.
Yeah, so the Air Force Base is basically gone. There is a National Guard base now that took its place. It's a smaller facility, but the hospital's no longer there. But anyhow, back to the Army career. In 1992, after I got out, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grow up. So I settled in Bradley Beach, New Jersey, and I went to the library. And the librarian and I had a conversation, and she said to me, you know, they're looking for substitute teachers over here at the elementary school. So that's when I got involved with education. I started subbing at that school and then around the county. And I decided, I think I might like this. I liked children. The kids really liked me. I was a young fellow then. And so they really liked me. I got along with everybody. I took command of a classroom, usually substitute teachers.
You hear that? I took command of a classroom.
These poor second graders had no idea what was coming.
It's true. Substitute teachers get run all over by the kids.
Not this one, though.
Not this one.
It took command.
He took command of it.
Classroom.
All right, Colonel.
So anyhow, I did that for a year and a half. Meanwhile, I had to get a master's degree in Master of Arts in Teaching.
Wow.
From Fairleigh Dickinson University in New Jersey. So I got that master's degree, immediately was able to get a full-time job. And I started working as a sixth grade teacher, taught seventh and eighth grade too, social studies and math. And after a few years, my principal and I had a little disagreement about a trip to Washington, D.C. She wanted us to go way out of the way from Mount Vernon to Luray Caverns. And I said, Miss Scal, instead of doing that, how about we go to Gettysburg? I just taught the kids about the Civil War. The battlefield at Gettysburg would be a great place to stop on the way back to New Jersey. And she said, Mr. Camera, when you become a principal, you can make those decisions.
Wow.
I went home that night, enrolled in Seton Hall University, got a master's degree in educational leadership, and got my degree in about another year and a half. And I left that school in good memories. I
Sure.
missed those kids and those and the fellow teachers. But I left that school and became a vice principal at another town in an elementary school, first through fifth grade, was the vice principal.
Now, did they get to go to Gettysburg?
Excuse me?
Did they get to go to Gettysburg?
They did not.
You bring a first grader to get
But I got to tell you this story. First through fifth grade, they're just little kids. And my best friend had retired from he was the New Jersey Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control deputy director. And this fella had $1,000 suits.
Wow.
When he retired, he gave me those suits. I had a wardrobe like I just walked out of Brooks Brothers. I was on the cover of magazines. But
That's awesome.
But I wore $3.99 SpongeBob SquarePants ties.
And Beavis and Butthead. Don't forget about those.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
Beavis and Butthead, I had them all. The Superman, the superheroes, I had all those ties. $3.99 ties with $1,000 suits.
That was your look.
Nice.
They couldn't figure me out. The administrators, the superintendent and assistant superintendent, when I left and retired fully from education, they spoke at my dinner and said, "We don't know why, but we just had to call you in for an interview. When we saw your resume, that you were a retired lieutenant colonel, we just wanted to see what one looked like."
That's amazing.
So I think they had dreams of me being out in the field marching the kids around the playground, but it didn't happen like that. I had more fun than ever there.
Right.
But anyhow, now back to where we are today. Karen and I moved here in 2015 to North Myrtle Beach.
Nice.
Good choice.
I immediately got involved in the Veterans of Foreign Wars post that is in North Myrtle Beach. And I joined the House Committee, and a year later, I became a vice commander. And a year later, I became the commander of the post.
This guy
He
commands
doesn't-
everything.
commands.
I'm guessing
He's
you
a
don't golf.
Commander.
You're not a golfer.
Professional commander.
He's a professional commander. I love it.
I don't like taking orders. I like giving them.
Yeah.
Following that.
Anyhow,
We might need to bring him in more often
Yeah,
and
that's right.
let him work with some of these
Grid them
agents
up.
that we have here.
Maybe
You know?
transaction coordinator.
Yeah, transaction coordinator.
Let him take command of the deal.
or prospecting
Please,
leader.
That's what I need,
Yeah.
man. A little bit of command in my life would
Yeah.
work.
well, back to the VFW. I believe that organization, as well as the American Legion, I'm a member of both, life members of both. Both of those organizations do so much good for those who have served. And I'm proud to have been a member. I still am. Right now, I'm the South Carolina Community Service Chairman for the state. So all of the things that the posts do around this state, so they send their reports to me, I consolidate them, I report them to national headquarters. And we raise millions of dollars each year.
That's
Sure.
fantastic.
That helps our veterans in that the VA, the Veterans Administration, does not have to spend money for veterans because we are raising that voluntarily.
That's good, and we'll talk about the VA, I think, in a little bit, because I think that's another great topic that we have. Now I want to ask this, and I'm gonna divert you for a second.
Good.
And you brought in
Stefan.
No, I want to know. No, let's use the Italian version.
Oh,
Stefania.
Stefania. You have to say it with your hands.
Stefania. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Oh, well, I am the baby daughter of Nicholas Camera. And I'm actually still living in New Jersey. I come down here every chance I get. I got to get the heck out of Jersey once in a while. And
that's what they all say.
Thankfully, my dad moved down here when he retired, so I call it the beach house.
The beach house.
So I raised Army brat, and I didn't move around nearly as much as a lot of my friends did. We were talking about this morning. I had friends that would say, well, we just got back from the Philippines and I was there for half a year, and then we went to Japan, and then we went here, and I'm like, okay, I've been to Texas and Virginia and Italy, and then, that's about it. But growing up surrounded by uniforms and authority,
right?
And I'm so thankful for this. I learned like the respect and the patriotism, and I remember having jury duty one time, and they asked me, would you side with the police officer rather than the victim or whatnot? And I said, I will always go with the uniform, and obviously, but So
you're active right now.
I'm sorry.
Are you active right now?
Active for?
You're in the military or
no?
Okay.
No, I'm not military.
You're
I'm
not
sorry.
military.
I did not follow in his footsteps in that way. However, I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher.
Oh, yeah,
so you followed
in his
there.
footsteps for sure.
Yeah.
I like to command as well.
Yeah. And tell us about. So what are you teaching? What grade?
I'm actually a paraprofessional, which is like a fancy word for teacher's aide.
Okay.
But for pre-K for a public school district up in Jersey.
Very nice.
And we have it's a real labor of love because it's extremely hard work. And a lot of our kids are from, unfortunate situations at home, custody issues, prison time, the low socioeconomic. Yeah. So it's a real, for me, it's a ministry almost.
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. You really have to have your heart in that.
Absolutely. You have to be made to do it, because I could never work in an office or do this. I need to be hanging out with the 3-year-old kids, wiping tables and just talking about Star Wars, that's the joy. So, but he instilled in me that respect, quality. He always would tell me, Steph, you gotta get out of. I worked at private schools and stuff before that, and he would always give me the advice, Steph, you gotta get to public. You get summers off. You get good benefits. Mm-hmm. And for years I was like, no, Dad, I'm good in the private sector or whatnot. And he was totally right. It's totally worth it. The public schools need people that
love kids.
Equipped. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Because there's unfortunately, a lot of staff, they just don't really like children. So it's unfortunate, but
absolutely.
Yeah, but no, I'm Nicholas Camera's baby daughter.
I love it. So tell me, what was your favorite place to go to while serving, or favorite place to live?
Oh, that would have to be Italy.
Was it Italy?
I loved Italy. I happened to have a great job there. I was the commander of the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service in Italy. So I had under me the detachments at all of the Air Force, Army, and Navy bases in Italy, which I unfortunately had to travel to every single one of them to visit.
Brutal.
And so to go to
the landscape's terrible.
Oh, to go to Naples and Gaeta.
Oh my gosh,
San
sounds
Vito,
horrible.
Food must have been terrible.
Don't get me started.
I had to go to Sicily for a number of times. It was tough, but you got to suffer sometimes. I know.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah. No, actually, seriously though, the honor of during Desert Storm.
Okay.
I had just gotten over to Italy in August of 1990, and the country we were building up for that war at the time. My car took about 6 months to get from New Jersey over to the port in Italy so I could pick it up, mainly because the cargo on these ships was all diverted to the Middle East to go for that war. But anyhow, my job during that time in Italy was to make sure that the troops in Northern Africa and all the Middle East were served by the satellite service that my network ran. So I would monitor all the feeds from the United States, all the news reports, everything that our civilian folks back here would see about the news, we wanted to make sure that our soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen, they saw the same thing. So my job was to make sure that that feed went directly over to the desert so that those guys knew what was going on.
Wow.
Well, what we saw.
When they're out in the middle of a tent in the desert, they have nothing to hear or watch until we got little portable radios to them that actually downloaded the satellite feed, and they could keep aware of what was going on back in the States.
Wow.
And what their families were hearing about what's going on. If you remember that Desert Storm War, I don't know.
I remember when they announced it, and Bush came on.
Sixth grade.
Yeah. I was in Columbia. I was at the mall.
I had a pen pal.
I remember it.
Okay.
I had a pen pal that came out of a private school because I went to a private school in Rochester, and we had a pen pal. I had a pen pal that he graduated from that school, and everyone that went to Desert Storm, we'd pick up people to write letters back.
Yeah.
I have a question about now. So is that communication thing still the same thing, or are soldiers on Facebook?
No, we still have the Armed Forces radio and television. Yeah, all over the world.
But is the communication easier for our soldiers now?
Yes,
obviously
because of the internet,
right?
And the availability, and they all have personal computers, and I think they can see their babies from inside of a tank.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's totally different than trying to get a feed to them to make sure that their mom wasn't hearing something crazy.
Exactly. Technology has been so much different since 1990.
And now with things like say Elon Musk Starlink, where he just went over to Ukraine and they tried to knock the internet out, and he's like, "Nah, I got you," and he went over there and just said, "There's nothing you can do about it." And he's getting internet in all these different places, from Africa to South America, where you would never think you could get internet. And I would imagine that, if there comes another war, that hopefully we're not involved in.
I have a question about that too.
But now we have the ability to give vast internet capabilities, so you could be.
Or the private sector interfering with that. Was that going on in the 80s and 90s? Was the private sector had the kind of power to come in and change the communication pattern in a war zone?
No.
But they do now.
No, I don't believe so.
Well, with the satellites,
Elon Musk thing, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Elon Musk supplied internet to Ukraine, so
now they're communicating. And he did it during the storm Irma in Florida, where they got their internet capabilities knocked out. And he went in there and just, you heard the governor of Florida go, thank you to Elon Musk for coming in and dropping satellites in.
Yeah.
So
no, I see what you're saying, but it's still the television feed, like the Super Bowl. I happened to be in Korea during the Super Bowl of 1987, the Giants against Buffalo.
That's 90.
That was 90?
1990.
I was in Italy.
That's the same year I had the pen pal.
Fellow Giants fan over here.
That's right. I was down in Italy watching that game downstairs, and I still remember it. But you're watching it live. When I was in Korea, it was like in the middle of the morning. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was game time. And but you're watching things, and soldiers deserve to see things live as they're coming across a satellite feed. Now, Elon Musk is not going to televise the Super Bowl for the GIs.
Well, until he buys the NFL.
If he wanted to.
Right. A couple weeks.
I understand. Now I get it. Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little different.
So we mentioned something earlier, and we talked about the VA and how y'all are raising funds outside of the scope of that. So tell us your thoughts on the VA and maybe some of the local VA places. I know we got a new one over at the former Air Force Base.
Yes.
See, being from here, I always consider, we call it the back gate and the front gate.
That's right.
Because, growing up here, it was always an Air Force base.
Yes.
And I had a grandmother that lived in this neighborhood. It was called Ramsey Acres. It was off of Pine Island Road, which is near the mall area. And so we would always see the A-10s and everything, flying around, because we're right next to the Air Force Base.
Yeah.
And, it was always nice if you could get on there and go duty free at the shopping and whatnot. So tell us your thoughts on the local VA and.
Well, as far as bases are concerned, after they closed that base, I think it was in the late 90s.
Clinton closed it, yeah.
Yeah. There's very few military bases nearby anymore. Like, being a retiree, I'm able to go to the commissary and the PX because I have a military ID card, a retired card. The closest that we have is 2.5 hours away.
Sumter, right?
We have Shaw Air Force Base.
Yep.
We have
Sumter.
Fort Bragg, North Carolina,
which is, by the way, the largest base in the country.
That's right. You have Camp Lejeune up the road in North Carolina.
That's right.
You have the Navy base down in Charleston, Goose Creek.
That's right.
And you have the Air
Hilton,
Force Base at Charleston.
And don't forget about Paradise Island.
Paradise Island. Paradise Island. That ain't no paradise.
I'm thinking of a show on TV, aren't I?
My grandfather, that was vacation for me when I was growing up. He would bring us through all these bases and all those names I remember, because that's how we would travel with his camper, and we would end up, and that's what we did for the day. We toured Paradise Island, or we toured. I remember coming to Myrtle Beach and looking at that Air Force Base when it was an Air Force Base.
Yeah.
It's different now. I don't remember ever bringing my children to go visit Air Force bases and kind of get that kind of respect.
I did that my whole childhood.
Yeah, you were growing up there. I was visiting as my grandpa would flash his military ID or whatever, and we would get right in, and we'd be welcomed in and eat lunch there and watch shows and see demonstrations and that kind of stuff. Right. And I guess I miss that. My kids are missing that right now, and I don't know how the opportunity comes back, because I never served. How about the hospital or the VA clinic?
So
there?
The VA clinic here in Myrtle Beach is at Market Commons, which is the old Air Force Base. Generally, they have just renovated that entire facility, rebuilt it. The VA itself has improved so much in the last, I'd say, 4 years.
Good.
It began under President Trump. There was a lot of money in the budget for the Veterans Administration. They improved services. They actually made it possible for people who lived far away from a VA facility to be able to go to a local doctor and be remunerated for the cost of the doctor visit, because they couldn't get to a VA hospital. There's so much now on suicide prevention, suicide awareness, mental health, the troops that are coming back with PTSD. All those kinds of services are available through the VA, and they're available here in Myrtle Beach. So the homeless, they have programs for the homeless veterans.
And that's all been improved.
I was hearing something about that recently, that we had like 75 or 80-something homeless veterans in the Myrtle Beach area.
Only 75?
I was going to say, that seems like an attainable number.
It was something, what do you know about that?
I was shocked. A few years back, so I guess it was 17 or 18, I went to a day that they have on the old Air Force Base. They take an old clinic, or actually it was the Reserve Center, and they had all of the local services, like barbers, dentists, things like that, for a day where the homeless veterans come out of the woodwork and get haircuts and get their teeth cleaned and get things that they need to be done. It was done, and I'm pretty sure they still do it once a year at least down there. But I was surprised, and I learned a lot about, there's a lot of veterans living out in the woods, living out in tents.
That's horrible.
That just, they have mental problems. They came back. They don't know how to relate anymore. They're afraid. They want to remain under the radar. They don't want to have a cell phone. They don't want to be located. And it's a mystery to me, but you have to understand these people have problems. So it's the job of former veterans like me, to make sure that they're taken care of. Yeah. And that's why the VFW, to me, is a very important thing that I do and I serve.
Besides Christ, what do you think that the veterans need most? The veterans that are in trouble like that.
They need social services. They need guidance, but most of it is mental health issues.
And it's only recently, and I think in our entire nation has come to the realization that mental health is a real thing. Yeah. And for so long, we've kind of neglected that. And now it's, it used to be, if you're a guy, being a guy growing up, we were never taught emotional intelligence.
No way.
We were never taught that type of emotional intelligence of how to deal with scenarios and different things, or how to be vulnerable. And I think that now in where we're at today, that it's very everybody, hey, I'm going to see my therapist every Monday at 9.
Right.
And I get, and it used to be oh, you don't want to tell anybody that. But I'm like, I love it because you have to be able to talk. You have to be able to get things off, or else you could be that same person that didn't know how to deal with that have mental issues that are coming out of the woodwork to get their teeth cleaned, their hair cut, and different things like that, because they were never taught, and especially coming back from a very intense scenario, as war,
right?
And for us not to be able to take care of those folks, it's a shame on our behalf, and hopefully that's being changed, in today's world.
It sounds like it. It sounds like there's a lot more money coming into the VA.
There is.
Good men like you are working for that.
Well, thank you, but I don't deserve the accolades.
I think you do.
There's a lot of good people out there working. The churches that are in the area, the one down the street from us. Actually, our post has a basket that we collect canned goods, a different thing every month, whether it be rice or beans or whatever, and we bring these bags of groceries and things down to this church, and once a month on a certain Saturday, again, the homeless veterans come out of the woodwork and they go and pick up food for nothing
from a church. Good.
Now, how does that message get out to the homeless?
It's by word of mouth.
Is it?
It's by word of mouth.
That's right.
Like I say, I don't know where these folks are living, but if they ever need a place to stay, there are the North Strand Housing, which is out Route 9, out towards Loris. There's a place for a homeless. If somebody shows up at our VFW post, we can make a phone call and have that person in a clean bed that night.
Wow. And start helping with that emotional health situation.
And that's off of 9.
Yes, Route 9.
Now, I heard something, too, about them, and maybe it was here or something, doing like mini houses for homeless vets.
The Veterans Welcome Home Center and Resource. Veterans Welcome Home and Resource Center, formerly known as the Hutton House. One of the commanders of my post, his name was Dennis Hutton. God rest his soul, he passed away. He started that. It was a place for vets who just came back to get some help, whether it be apply for VA benefits, whether it be to get copies made of their discharge paperwork, just to get some assistance in settling down, to find some housing. That resource center has just evolved over the years, and today they are building mini houses for veterans.
Yes. And where is that? Is that
on building right now?
No, it's on Route 57.
Okay.
Just a little
Highway
south.
57. You can tell he's not from here.
Route 57. That's all right. That's all right. And so now let's unpack that, because now we have the mini house center and we start to how do we you teach a man to fish at some point.
The Welcome Home Center is a place. They actually help people find jobs.
Sure.
They get them to the VA for the services that they need. It's a really great organization, and I'm proud that our VFW post had something to do with starting that.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
Now, do you know how many houses they have, or how many houses that they are planning for, or how do they get funded?
How can people help?
Donations? How do people help?
It's all funded by donations. It is. They're not getting any government money. There might be some grants that they might apply for. I'm sure they get grants, but most of these donations are done by the local businesses. I think one of the local air conditioning and heating people, they donated, let's say, 50 units to go into these new little...
Is that Carolina Cool?
It could be. I don't know. I don't want to give them a promotion if I'm not sure.
I wouldn't either.
But anyhow, that's cool. But now let's change. Can we change the subject to Veterans Day?
Hey, you're in charge.
Because Friday.
You're
Veterans
commanding the room.
Coming, yep.
Somebody made me commander?
You're the commander of the room.
Okay, here we go. This Friday, the 11th of November, at the 11th hour of the 11th month, is Veterans Day. It goes back to World War I, when it was called Armistice Day. My grandfather, Nicholas Camera, my grandfather, he served in World War I. He was in the Lost Battalion. You might say, well, how did they get lost? Well, they were surrounded by the German army in the Ardennes forest in France. They survived. My grandfather survived. However, he was gassed with the chemical chlorine gas at that time. He was a painter in New York City. That was his original occupation. Not an artist painter, but a painter of houses. And things. In those days, the paint was oil-based. They used turpentine, all those vapors. When he returned back, his lungs were so damaged, he could not do that anymore. He became a florist in New York City, down on the east side of Toity and Toit.
I love that.
I kid you not. That's where their shop was, down in that area. I think it was 2nd Avenue and 33rd Street, where Little Italy is.
Yes.
But anyhow, he died when he was 36 years old.
Wow.
My father was only 16 years old.
Wow.
My first memories of the VFW was my father, who was a World War II vet. I used to go on Memorial Day and Veterans Day to the ceremonies, mostly Memorial Day, when they went to each grave and they would shoot a volley of fire into the air using their M1 weapons. Back then was M1. And the kids, like me, we used to pick up the hot brass as it fell on the ground and put it in our pockets. Wow. Because it was a great souvenir.
Sure.
But from that day on, whenever I see the American flag, I get a tear in my eye. My chest swells up with pride. I'm so proud to be an American and proud of my family and my heritage and of this country. And I would do it again if I just finished college again. I'd go right in the Army again. It's worth it. It's worth it to serve this country. Anyhow, Veterans Day. My grandfather was in World War I, and we go back to World War I for Veterans Day. It is a day we honor all who served. Memorial Day, it's for those who have passed away. This is the one where we honor all who served and who are serving.
Yes.
And what they do, and there's so many organizations and restaurants and facilities in the local community that on this Friday offer free meals or discounts for anybody with an ID card or has proof of being a veteran, which is a great way to honor them.
Absolutely.
Now, we have a ceremony in North Myrtle Beach every Memorial Day and every Veterans Day. This Friday at 11 o'clock at the North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex. There will be a Veterans Day ceremony. It's co-hosted with the American Legion Post 186 and the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 10804. Co-hosted, we'll have the mayor and council, we'll have some politicians that will be there, we'll have veterans there, we'll have very possibly a World War II veteran.
Awesome.
We just lost one. His name was Bill Jago, 102. He was waiting to be 103 sometime this year. We just lost him about 6 weeks ago.
Oh.
And he was our prize, and he had life privileges at our post, free meals, free beer, whatever he wanted, he had. Yeah. What a wonderful gentleman he was, and he was the pride of we still have a World War II veteran that we honored at his birthday, his 100th birthday, just about 3 months ago, and we hope he stays in good health. But these are the things that we look forward to see fellow veterans, to get together. There's nothing closer than the bond of a veteran with another veteran. We have shared experience and love for the country that it's hard to describe, but there's a special relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely,
man.
I mean that's a lot.
Well, when you think about, and you serve 20 years, and we talked about that, the loss of patriotism. Now I'm thinking, I keep going back to like when I grew up. I was so privileged. I got to grow up with Gary Bykirk, which was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner from the Army, and he had that same. He was actually my guidance counselor at school too. So when you were talking about unpacking your emotions, right? That's what I'm thinking about this, and I started to think about Mr. Bykirk, and I was like. Yeah, when Mr. Bykirk got back from Vietnam, his story goes that he went to the woods for a year. No communication. He goes into the woods for a year. He didn't even know he won the Congressional Medal of Honor. They had to come find him.
Wow.
Like, you won. They want to honor you. President Nixon wants to honor you.
Wow.
And it was like that. And he came out and he got saved at that time and went on to have a great life.
Wonderful.
Very involved with VA and everything with the town I grew up in. Similar, went right into education, right? Went into education after his military career. But I feel like we're really losing that in our kids today.
Oh,
I really do, and I feel like that's a big shame. I think it's a secondary attack. First attack on the family, and we've practically lost that, right? Yeah. So what's the American family now? It's a joke, is what it is. Now it's becoming what's the military? Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And they're attacking. And I know you feel that it's gotta break your heart.
It does. If you remember, right after 9/11, the Super Bowl that followed that was who was the female singer that brought the house down? It was the greatest patriotic display.
Whitney Houston.
Yes,
it was.
If you remember, if you go back, if you Google that, or you go to YouTube and you watch that, and you can see the patriotism at that time, how this country came together, how everybody just felt that emotion of that song that she sang. It was great. We've lost that. We lost it a couple of years ago when the NFL players started to display their displeasure with the flag. That to a veteran,
that's got to be the worst.
That is wrong.
It was awful. It was awful to us too.
That is wrong. You don't turn your back on this flag. They're making millions of dollars out there. They're making millions of dollars, and they're turning their back on the flag that we serve. And that's wrong.
Society in general, and that's probably a whole nother podcast. It'd be more of a bitch session, actually, of the way that.
Can I be invited?
Yeah. I don't know if we should. We'll be able to post it all, because there might be a lot of 4-letter words that aren't appropriate for everybody.
But as an educator and as a veteran, what can be done? What can a parent do now to try to instill some of this?
As an educator, when I was the vice principal, I made sure that every morning we had standing up and doing the Pledge of Allegiance, whether it be, I used to call students into my office and give them the microphone, and they would say the Pledge of Allegiance. And everybody in that school was standing at attention and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. If you were in the hallway, you knew you better stand right still. No moving.
Your kids are doing it.
We used to do that as I was growing up too.
Oh, they're doing it at the Christian Academy for sure. 100%. They were doing it at Calvary.
Are they doing it in public schools?
I'm sure they are in Oregon.
They are?
In my classroom, they are.
I'm sure they are. Yes. But are they doing it in homeschool? Because my kids aren't doing a Pledge of Allegiance every morning right now.
Well, that's on the parents.
Well, I understand. Yeah. I'm telling you, I just thought to myself that's changing now. That's changing tomorrow, because we brought our kids into homeschool over the last couple of years, out of a private school even, right? And they're not doing the Pledge of Allegiance. They're not, unless they're doing it on TikTok.
Yeah.
Well, you need to.
And I want to bring up something.
I'm just saying, it's a reality.
I want to bring up something about children and education. And one of the things that the Veterans of Foreign Wars offers every year, and this might be good for the audience out there, there's scholarship money available for kids. There's a thing called Patriots Pen. It's an essay writing. Every year there's a theme. There's a theme given by the VFW. It's on their vfw.org website. The kids can pick up an application.
And what was that called again?
Patriots Pen.
We'll find it in Google.
Elementary school. You can find it vfw.org.
vfw.org, Patriots Pen.
You look that up. High school kids have a thing called Voice of Democracy, where they record a speech about a given topic. Every year, the VFW comes out with a new subject for both Patriots Pen and Voice of Democracy. So these are good ways, if the parents out there, you want to do something to instill some patriotism in your children, these two programs, for the younger ones in elementary school, Patriots Pen, for high school, Voice of Democracy. And we even have a teacher award, teaching award, Teacher of the Year.
Wow.
Every teacher can be nominated by their principal for this. And so many principals let this get by. I was a principal, and I couldn't reward my teachers I couldn't increase their pay. I couldn't give them overtime. I couldn't give them benefits. Everything was all controlled by the time they had as a teacher and by the Board of Education. But what I could do is get them awards. So I would go and apply for the Veterans of Foreign Wars for the Teacher of the Year Award. And at least at a ceremony, you can recognize some of your best teachers, and they appreciate it. And it's just a wonderful thing to do. So if you're a parent out there, Get your kids in the Voice of Democracy and Patriot Spend contest. And if you have a teacher that's doing a great job in your school, you can nominate them for the Teacher Award. VFW.org has all the information.
That was a great plug. Yeah, thank you so much for that.
So give us a rundown of all the organizations that, are in town. And then also, how can a normal person that hasn't been in the military help out our vets?
I don't know of all organizations.
Give us a couple. Give us
a rundown on a few.
Well, we have the VFW post in North Myrtle Beach. We have the American Legion post, 186 in North Myrtle Beach. In Myrtle's Inlet, there's a VFW post right along Route 17. Those are your veteran organizations locally. I believe Conway is trying to start up a VFW.
Nick, you got to understand. So, like a layman, right? So, you're saying a VFW?
Oh, okay.
We think that's a private bar.
Okay.
All right. We drive by. We can't go to that one. That's right. That's what we know is going on.
Is that a membership only?
I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying, right? When you see your VFW,
private social club.
I remember Grandpa taking me to fish fries. Right. That's what I got. That's what I have.
They still do that,
of course. But I can't go.
That's a way to raise funds. The Veterans Welcome Home and Resource Center on Route 57, in North Myrtle Beach is probably the best place to go if you're interested in donations, either of your time or of your services or of your money.
Sure.
I believe that's probably the best way to get things to where they're needed the most and quickly.
And I'm guessing that if we show up in North Myrtle Beach on Veterans Day at 11 o'clock, there's going to be information there on how to help veterans.
Absolutely.
I'm positive of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's going to be an event that I don't think I'm going to miss.
Good.
So
I just remembered my kids haven't said the pledge for 3 months.
Bring your kids. It's a great opportunity for parents to bring their children. And we're going to have a guest speaker. I'm not sure who it is, but there's normally a retired or a military veteran that will talk about Veterans Day and what it means. And it's an educational experience. I think it's great if parents would come and bring their children.
If the mayor can cut the internet for an hour, then they'll turn TikTok off.
Please. And then there's a lot of other events too happening locally when it comes down to Veterans Day as well. So you got the one on Highway 57,
which is the one Nick's going 57. To. That's where I'm going.
North Myrtle Beach. North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex.
Okay, North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex.
Highway 57 is where that post is.
That's where the post is.
And the Welcome Home Center.
Welcome Home
Center. But the event is going to be held at the North Myrtle Beach Sports Complex, which is state of the art. A phenomenal place. Yeah. And then I believe there's some other things too down at the Market Commons. What is it? The park? What is it? War Park, where they have the airplanes. Warbird
Park. Yeah.
Warbird Park. Don't they have something there?
I believe they do. I'm not familiar with that.
Sure.
Being from the northern part of Myrtle Beach, I don't get down there that often.
It's only proper from a guy to move from the north to live in North Myrtle Beach.
Sure. Well, Yankee. That's a great part of the town. That's a great place to go.
Well, it's not just Yankee, but it's a damn Yankee.
True.
I am too.
You're a damn Yankees.
And there are. I just thought of. There are other organizations that do great things. I just played Thursday. I'm a golfer. In Myrtle Beach, you got to be a golfer.
Yes, sir.
So I played in the Tunnels to Towers tournament.
Yes.
Tunnels to Towers is my favorite. They pay off the mortgages for those who have given up their lives for their country or for their community. For firemen, first responders, police officers, and military.
And they do a big run in the city.
And they do these fundraisers around the country. This was a fundraiser, Thursday's golf tournament. It raised $60,000.
Wow.
So that kind of money helps. That kind of money helps pay off the mortgages for those who really, really need it. We lost a police officer in North Myrtle Beach on New Year's Eve. I believe it was 2020 or 2021. It was that soon ago. Officer Best was his last name, B-E-S-T. Young man with a young family. He was responding to what was reported to be gunfire somewhere near the Barefoot Resort. It was an icy night that night. his car skidded off the highway into a telephone pole. He was killed instantly.
I remember.
Last year at the tournament, his wife was there for the luncheon after the tournament, and they paid off her complete mortgage.
Wow.
That's amazing stuff.
That's awesome.
That's local.
I mean,
That's local.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Tunnels to Towers. You can
Tunnels to Towers.
You can get on TV. They do commercials on television. You can donate. I think they were asking for $11 a month.
Yes.
If people could donate $11 a month, that goes into that fund. That's how you can help.
I see that on TV all the time, or at least the channel I watch.
Yeah. Okay.
The channel you and I probably watch the same channel. I'm
Wasn't
guessing.
very good. I know. I didn't think we were allowed to bring politics up anymore. I thought that got cut from our show, but I want to so bad. I'm like, I can't believe it.
You're salivating over there.
One. Can you believe this?
Dude, I don't know yet.
Now, there are two others. Folds of Honor.
Okay.
Folds of Honor.
Your boy's involved with that.
Those
Ronnie
are
does a
more-
lot for Folds of Honor.
Yeah, Folds of Honor is raising money to pay for the education of the children of the families that have lost their loved one.
Wow.
All right, so they're thinking about the future generations. Tunnels to Towers pays off the mortgages of the current generation.
Wow.
And there is one more. Well, the Paralyzed Veterans of America is another great organization.
Wow.
I mean, we got so many, from the recent war in Afghanistan, so many people who've lost limbs because of those explosives.
Yes.
And those kids deserve to have the prosthetic devices.
Yes.
They deserve the best.
They deserve the best.
Absolutely.
They deserve the best. It's mind-boggling to me to think that they're not getting the best.
And now is it Tunnel to Towers where they take with the folks that have lost limbs and they build the houses
Yes.
so that, when you're in a wheelchair that you can cook or you can
Yes.
do all these things,
Yes.
which is a very special thing for, the people that gave the most, to this country. They've lost limbs to be able to operate in your house, because you take for granted, and we take for granted every day.
We do.
Like
I do.
the many blessings that we have, and from things like cooking on your stove, or be able to get to your stove in order to do it, where these folks don't have that same opportunity that we have. And I think it's such a great testament that there is an organization out there that helps these folks that gave their everything for the freedom of us.
Absolutely.
I would say even they would think that you could give more of their lives, and that's the awesome thing when you see a veteran that's been disabled and is functioning there, and he's still so patriotic, and
Right.
typically they're the most thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the most thankful that anything is going on, and it's just I can't say how much I appreciate it. I can't. It's an amazing. You're an amazing man, Nick.
Yeah.
I am so glad that we were able to have this conversation.
And at an early age, my dad always taught me to, every time you meet a veteran, you shake their hand, and and you shake it firm.
You show respect,
and you say thank you for your service.
You respect the uniform. You side with the uniform.
And I want to go to the next step and say thank you to the families as well, because the families are also out there having to live and go to all these places with the veterans that so served us. So listen, I want to thank you guys so much for coming in today and joining the Coastal Wave podcast. And Nigel Haranzi and
Patrick Zarcone, just can't say enough. What an amazing man you are, Nick.
Veterans Day, Friday, 11/11/11 is the time that we're doing it. And thank you again for coming out today. Appreciate it.
To the next episode.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea.